evening. This is Noreen McClendon with Free to Heal, where we come together weekly with formerly incarcerated, their loved ones, children of formerly incarcerated, any stakeholders that are affected by the criminal justice system. And we try to heal from the ravages of what incarceration has done to us individually, our families, and our communities. And so I want to welcome you. Let me just say off the top, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. By all means, leave us comments if there are topics you want us to discuss. Let us know what those are, and we will be sure to bring those up because this is, after all, for the audience, for everybody out there that might be able to be healed from our discussions. And tonight's discussion the theme was, it's all in the selection process. What's in the selection process? Everything is in the selection process from the beginning. So we talked about how a lot of relationships start, people, particularly intimate partner relationships, there's no intention to get into a relationship. People just wake up and they've been seeing somebody, they've been quote unquote dating, and now they're in a relationship, but there was no actual process. They didn't vet this person, they didn't think about who they were and whether or not this was a relationship for them. They didn't give it enough time, but they're in it. And so there was no thought about whether this person's personality, whether their lifestyle is conducive to being in a relationship with me, whether it works for my lifestyle or not. We had one group participant who had a kind of a revelation and a breakthrough and understanding that she had a particular type, and she realizes that she doesn't really like it, and she's going to be on a path to figure out, why do I select the same thing? And we gave her great suggestions on what she needs to do now to figure out why it is that she selects the same thing. Now, keep in mind, this was not just intimate partners, even her friends. She's selecting the same kind of person. She's attracting to her the same kind of person that tends to want to control her. And she doesn't like it, but she winds up in the same situation over and over and over again. And I think it's just interesting. So that was a very powerful revelation for her. And hopefully she'll get the understanding, and she can stop putting herself in that position. I hope you appreciate and get something out of that particular segment. Then there was another participant made a decision to walk away from a friend that they've had since they were kids. They were elementary school friends. But what's important is that the relationship was toxic. It wasn't something that was in the participant's best interest. And while it was not what they wanted to do, it was what they felt they needed to do in order to be true to themselves and to not put themselves in a bad situation, to potentially wind up having a bad scenario come out of it, and even potentially going back to prison, trying to be friends with somebody when the relationship was not something that was beneficial to them, and in their definition, it was toxic. If you find yourself in a relationship that is toxic and disturbs your peace, not only are you responsible, but you're divinely instructed to walk away from that. That is your right. You do not have to be in a toxic relationship with anybody. And the longer you stay in a toxic relationship, the worse the outcomes will be. The bigger the consequences, the more severe the consequences will become, because you're ignoring the warning signs that are always there. They're always there for us. Once you identify what it is that causes you realize there's something going on and you get out of a situation, it's necessary for you to find out why, dig up the why, and figure out what it is that causes you to be attracted to that, and why those types of relationships are attracting to you. Why is that important? Because if you don't, what you will find is you will get out of this relationship, pick up another person or situation that looks totally different, but it's the same thing, and you get the same result, and you wind up in the same place, and it's extremely frustrating. So not only do you have to identify or get out of a situation when you find it to be toxic or not good for you, but you need to examine yourself to find out, why did you participate? We teach people how to treat us. We attract to us what we are. And if we don't like what we're attracting, we need to find out why we're attracting it so that we can then root that up and replace that with something else so that we don't keep changing the day of the week or the season of the year and wind up with the same potential relationship outcomes all over again. Then we had one participant who made a really good decision, and it was powerful to listen to him discuss what he went through and why he made the choice to end a relationship with someone that he thought could potentially be a relationship. And I hope that you enjoy that segment as well. One of the other things that came up in that discussion was there were certain things that were a red flag that initially he didn't have the opportunity to see based on the fact that they were doing a lot of texting and they weren't actually having conversations. But once he began to actually talk to this person, he was able to pick up some things, and thankfully for him, he had the strength and the courage to walk away before this became something that was very toxic. The other thing that came out in the discussion tonight that was a great spotlight to me was oftentimes when people are incarcerated, particularly if they've been incarcerated for a long time, when they come home, they pick up relationships with people who they knew prior to incarceration. Maybe there was a puppy love, there was an infatuation, there was somebody that was just a good friend, and they pick up those relationships. One of the things to be careful of and to pay attention to is that while you were gone, all of those years, there were things that that person went through. Don't fantasize that this is the person that you walked away from or you knew 30 years ago. Life has happened to them, and life has happened to you in 30 years. So it's really important to get to know them as of today. Don't think that you know them and that they are the same person they were 30 years, just like you're not the same person that went into prison 30 years ago. Even if it's not 30 years ago, if it's 10 years ago, people evolve, people grow, people change, people emerge, things happen, and we have to get to know that person now. So that's a segment that I hope that you will pay close attention to and something you take away from tonight. There was another segment where we talked about not getting into a relationship when you come home with somebody because you have a need of what they have. It is very easy for men and women to fall into relationships with someone because they need them for something. They feel like they need a place to stay, or they need access to a car, or they just need to be in a relationship. Well, those relationships don't tend to work because it's not because you want to be there, it's because you need to be there. And getting into any relationship, whether a person's been incarcerated or not, because you need someone versus the fact that you want to be there. The danger in that is that when you no longer have the need for them or whatever you think they're providing, you no longer have a need for the relationship. And it's unfair, it's selfish, and it's destructive. And so I just encourage people, find your needs take care of your needs in other ways. Don't bring a person along, string them along simply because you need what they have to offer. And so, hope you pay attention to that segment. That is a spotlight that I encourage people, no matter whether the person, anybody in the relationship's been incarcerated or not. That is not a healthy thing to do, because again, once the need is no longer there, or you can find a way to meet it some in another way or another person, you're going to move on from the relationship. Um, and then there was a great suggestion by one of the participants tonight, and he used an example. He said, you need to vet the woman that you might want to be in a relationship with as the same as you would have when you were on the yard. When a new person came on the yard, you checked them out, you watched them, you got information on them before you ever decided to break bread with them. I say, not only people that are there for a potential relationship, potential intimate partner relationship, but even your friends. Vet them. Find out whether they're worthy to be in your life, whether or not they add value to your life. Everybody doesn't deserve to have access to you just because they know you, just because they have a need, just because they're family. So I say, take that. I thought that was a great suggestion, and I had never heard it put that way before, but I think it's something that we should all take with us is vet the people that you allow in your circle before you simply accept them as into your world and into your universe. I think that's very important, and I hope you enjoy that segment. And this was great. This was really great to me. At one point, it occurred to me as I'm listening to the participants tonight that when people come home from incarceration, it is an opportunity for a reset of who's in your life, what kind of life you're going to have, what you will and won't do. This is an opportunity to recreate yourself, to reimagine your life, to put into practice those things you dreamed about when you were incarcerated. It's an opportunity to purge anything that you didn't like, those things that didn't bring you peace, happiness, joy, those things that didn't make you prosperous. You now have an opportunity to purge those things and to rewrite your own script. People are reinventing themselves all the time, but it was a wonderful discussion about the fact that you can literally rewrite your narrative now, and you're not stuck in the old narrative or the old person. You're a different person now. Like it or not, incarceration produces a different person. You're not going to come out the same person that went into incarceration. We talk about that all the time. So that was a wonderful thing, and I hope that you enjoy this particular part of the discussion. And then finally, there was also tonight a great discussion and a great tip, a nuance to discussing in applications your criminal history, and the question, have you been convicted in the last 5 years? And it's a tip on how you address that question on an application, and I'm gonna not gonna tell you what it is. You have to listen to find out, and I hope you enjoy that. I hope that you enjoy this entire session. We always have great conversations, and hopefully we are helping somebody along the way, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll look to talk to you again next week. And again, I'm Noreen McClendon, and this is Free to Heal. Have a good one. Bye-bye. So I want to welcome, I want to welcome everybody to Free to Heal. And one of the things that in our last conversation, it prompted me to think about something. And that is the selection process when we select who we select. in relationships. And it's not just intimate partner relationships, but it's all relationships. When we select who we choose to be in relationship with, sometimes we don't do that with intention. Particularly in intimate partner relationships, what I can say is true is we tend to have a type. We have what we like. We tend to attract the same type, oftentimes. And as a result, we get the same thing over and over and over again, right? But we don't ever go back and look at, why did I select that? What caused me to get the same thing over and over and over again? We just keep doing it. And we don't think about what we're ingesting and why are we attracting that same thing. Usually it's because we keep looking for the same thing, or we keep functioning the same way, expecting us to get a different result. So if I have the same thoughts, if I'm attracted to the same kind of guy, for me, it was the guy who had some issues, and as long as I understood why he had issues, I gave him a pass for the things that he didn't do or the needs of mine that he didn't meet. I also have a physical type that I like. I like that, but I have in the years gotten over that part of it. But it took me a while to realize that I got to find somebody who is healthy in their own right, which is what I wasn't doing. I spent a lot of time working on me to be healthy and ready for a relationship, but I wasn't making sure that he was healthy and ready for a relationship.
And I wasn't. And she threw me out, threw me on the street like a dog.
This is interesting because I always go to people that's very controlling, yet I don't want to be controlled. Like, and then it becomes this thing, this argument all the time, because you can't tell me, but I always tend to, even with my friendships they tend to try to control situations, and then I'm trying to control, like, don't control me. So why am I continuing to do that?
That's interesting in it, because it's like, because really, again, it's something subconscious that's going on that you haven't yet identified. And like you say, when you find that it goes across lines, it's not just the guys that you choose to be with, but it's friendships, it's all kinds of stuff where you're accepting this controlling nature and you're attracting this controlling personality type, but that's not really what you want. You don't want to be controlled. But at the same time, so now the question is for us to unpack what it is. Like, I would try to figure out, who was the first person that had a controlling behavior around me? Was it dad? Was it mom? Was, where did that come from? Was it friends? Who was it that first? And what, I always go back to childhood. For me, it was my dad, right? My dad he loved me, he doted on me, but he was emotionally unavailable in a lot of ways. Good evening, sir. He was emotionally unavailable in a lot of ways. He would, I always felt like I had to tiptoe around him in order to maintain the relationship. And if I didn't do the work to maintain the relationship, there wouldn't be a relationship.
Maybe you just like to argue.
No, not with my daddy. Oh, no. You mean with Roberta?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I promise you, and then
I know, but I say maybe like, down deep you like to argue.
I don't. It's annoying to sit there and argue back about what. It's just.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? And I'm catching the tail end of it.
So yeah, so let me
how you brothers doing?
I'm gonna just catch you up so you don't go in the wrong direction. So what we're talking about is that oftentimes we wind up with the same kind of person, and we wind up in relationships and we get the same result. Is because we're attracted to the same person, even if we're not consciously doing it. Miss Roberta is saying that she tends to like people who are, or wind up in situations with people who are controlling, not just her boyfriends, but her friends. and that at the end of the day,
You know,
she
I
doesn't
always-
like it. She doesn't like it, but she winds up there.
The thing is this, and this is what I tell everybody from Jump Street, is you teach people how to treat you. That's my first thing. You start off as a strong person when you first meet them, because you want to let them know that you can stand alone. Then later on, your demeanor as a woman is that you kind of lax back and start accepting their bullshit until you get tired.
But see, this is the thing
And
though,
that's where
James.
arguments
This is
start.
the thing though, James. This is the issue about that though, is that there's somehow that she's even attracting them to her. There's
Quit looking in
something.
the same place and getting the same goddamn.
I have
Dodo bird.
friendships, I'm saying,
Right.
my friendships, we, in my year, like, we have these, like, I'm like, girl, well, who you trying to control? But,
Yeah.
but then I love her to death.
Right, and won't let her go, right? You're not breaking up the friendship.
But is
Right.
it every time, or is it only certain times that she touches you like that? And is it
Oh,
me?
Affects you like that.
It
No,
affects you.
she talking about somebody from 20-some years. She talking about,
No.
you're not
But
controlling
yeah.
those heavy, those,
Because I have an
those kind of
authoritative.
aggressive
Right.
friendship. I like the assholes, not calling you an asshole, but
issue.
I tend to
Gravitate.
Yeah.
That's what this is saying.
I'm like,
She said, you're not an asshole, but I expect you.
man, or being confrontational.
Well, that's, no.
Well, you know what it
Nobody
is?
got-
what it is, no, some people do. Some people do
I
like
don't- I
confrontation.
can't stand
But what it is a matter of you literally have to go all the way back and find out where it started.
Yeah, you do.
You got to look at the people that was closest to you. That's the only way I was able to unpack and figure out that it started with my dad. That time when I was a little girl, and my grandmother took me to see him, and she said, he's not well. But when I saw him, he looked the same, he talked the same, everything. He was laughing, playing pinochle and all that. But my grandmother said he's sick. So I didn't worry about what I needed from him that day. I worried about tiptoeing around him. And that started something that I carried with all the men in my life. And it was, and it took me a long time to unpack that and figure that out, but I would say, go back and find out when you start looking at relationships in your home, how you were raised, whether there was the person that you loved the most, whether they were a controlling person, whether the person you didn't like the most, whether they were controlling, because you can get it from either side. You can get it from either direction. It will impact you.
Can I ask you a question?
I want to ask you something, and it doesn't have to do with this subject.
Okay.
When we finish with this
Okay.
subject, I'd like to talk about the state of address, or however.
The State of the Union.
Yeah,
Oh, that's going on right now.
I don't know if it's today or tomorrow.
It is. It's today, and it's actually probably happening right now as we speak. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really, really interested in it this morning, because what he was supposed to say about all the people, not just part of them, and the governors that are trying to knock blacks out of the books and stuff like that. And I just kind of want to talk about it to understand it a little bit.
Okay.
more.
Okay. So we'll come back to that. But go ahead, James.
Let me ask this question, because sometimes, like me, I was a natural asshole.
Mhm.
What do you mean was?
I knew that was coming. I was a real live natural asshole. Now that I came out, it seemed like I'm attracting assholes to me. I'm attracting who I used to be.
What do you mean?
Even though I changed in a way to where I don't like to argue. I don't walk around with pistols. I don't sell dope. I don't act a fool. But the people around me tends to take my new me as a weakness, and they try to control me. And that goes with my family as well. They try to control me in a way that's unbecoming of me and my peace. Because now that I've been away and I found that peace, that inner peace within myself, that I'm secure with myself, that I can be who I am without the mask. Now it seems like everybody's getting the bar and they like, okay, can I get him back? Can I do this? Can I do that? So what I do is when people, regardless, I had a friend that was my friend since elementary school. I told him our relationship is toxic and I'm good. Ain't no animosity towards you, your family, or nobody. This is toxic. This is not giving me my inner peace to where I feel like, really, I want to take a hammer and bust him in the head. But instead of going back to prison, I'd rather just say, look, man, let's agree to disagree, that this is not where I want to be. Because I'm not who I was, but I'm not going to let you run over who I am today. My peace is my solitude. My solitude is what's giving me the journey of moving forward and ahead. So now you have to make a decision. Is this 20-year friend worth your peace? And sometimes we have to cut people loose because they're looking for the old you. They're not willing to let you be the new you because we done been through all these groups. And if you took these groups to heart and took these groups serious in your life, you're not the same person who went to jail. So they are looking for that old Roberta that went to jail. They're not looking for the new Roberta that came out, because the new Roberta is, I don't want to argue. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want you controlling me. I don't want a piece of this, a piece of that. And now it's time to make that decision, because I made it. Matter of fact, I just made it 2 weeks ago, and I told my elementary school partner that our relationship is toxic.
So I want to say,
I'm saying it's today, all the time, I attract. Still to this, I still today in my life I attract that, and I go for it, and then
you're unhappy with it. And this is where you gotta examine yourself, right? You gotta spend some time concentrating on yourself, right? And figuring out what is it that I'm doing and what is it that makes these people. And then another thing is, once we find out, we identify what those things are, then we got to start rejecting it right off the bat. We got to say, no, I'm not doing that. You see what I'm saying? Because guess what? What you will find is that the behavior all the warning signs are all there. It starts off very early. The little controlling things. Well, no, I don't want you to wear that. Don't wear that, girl. We going out to wherever we going to the movie. I don't want you to wear that. Okay. Don't even start that with me. I'm not doing that. This is what I'm wearing. And it can be little things. You don't even have to really necessarily have a discussion. This is what I'm wearing. But there's something about it. And like I said, when we talk about intimate partners, we do tend to have a type. Even if they don't look the same, there's something about their characteristics, their personalities, and we all do it. And so this is where, like I say, for me, I wanted to touch on it and say that it's all in the selection process. If we keep choosing the same thing, we're going to get the same result. Yes, if we're gonna have the same kind of, we're gonna have the same kind of guy, the same kind of girl, we're gonna get the same kind of results in the relationship.
One thing, and Miss Noreen really helps me with this. Fellas, check this out. I just got out of something that was toxic. I almost went to jail last night. I'm being open with y'all. I almost went to jail last night. And what I did was I got rid of a relationship that was toxic. But when her sister died, their family called on me to go get her from work. I dropped off at her sister. I thought it was over. She kept calling, I wouldn't answer. Woman showed up at my mother's house to pour sugar in my gas tank of my truck. Now I'm outside telling her, what are you doing here? We're not in a relationship. We don't have nothing to do with each other. And she's saying that I don't want to let you go. But the thing is, you have to let me go. And the thing is, I'm making my own decision because what we had was toxic. And you have to be stern, which my sisters tell me, I have to be stern in my nose. So you have to be stern in your nose.
And this is the thing that's really, thank you for being transparent and vulnerable in this moment, because what happened is I had to say to him, no matter what the circumstance, no matter how it came at him, to go back into any situation with that particular woman, her crises are no longer his responsibility. But guess what? It's the same behavior, and it's his inclination to what I do call be Captain Save-A-Ho. And you can't save everybody. He want to put on his cape and go rush in and be Captain Save-A-Ho, and she knows that, and so does everybody else. And what happens is it almost landed him back up in jail. Okay, so now, but this is the thing there, and what I was telling him is he's going to have to identify why he needs to save somebody, because if he doesn't, he will get rid of her and get another woman that act just like her, have the same kind of issues, and start to cycle all over again. So what it is identifying what it is that we are attracted to that doesn't work for us, and why, where did we get it from? How far back does it go? And I want to open it up for questions. I want my folks on here on Zoom, I want y'all to chime in, holler at me, see what's going on, comments, questions, because it's really an important issue that if you planning on being with somebody, and even like I say, if it's just friendships, you're going to have to identify what it is. Talk to me. Okay.
Right?
Nobody had nothing to say. Nobody had no comments, no thoughts, no nothing.
No, I just,
Huh? No, you all right?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, look.
No.
Let me pose a question to the brother.
I'll come on.
Rufus, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, my thoughts in this is that I agree with you when you say, you can't be Captain Save-A-Ho, you know what I mean? But, for me, I don't know. I guess I was attracted to a body type, I guess.
You said what?
But now, huh?
You were attracted.
I guess I was attracted to a body type.
Oh, okay.
But and that's not where I'm at anymore. It's the mental part of it that I'm that I'm interested in. So I don't know. I think it'd be hard for me to I guess I don't know if I'm over that part, because I'm not attracted to a body type. I'm attracted to a woman's mentals and whether she's open to communication and stuff like that. So for me, just like incident I just had with I just got out, so I had a female that we hung out, and when I used to talk to her, she used to be drunk on the phone. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but I went over to her house one time to a family function, and I had to get Ubered over there. She Ubered me over there and all that, because I didn't have no car and all that. So I get over there and I'm standing outside and nobody's around. I don't know what house to go to. So, I'm like, damn. So I'm calling. I called her like 7 times. She finally answered, drunk and all that. I said, well, look, I'm out here. Where you at? She come out 2 houses down. I go in, and they're having a family function, which is fine. I'm not taking it personal, even though it was a little bothering. But I'm in the house. She never entertained me, not one time. You know what I'm saying? Not one time did she entertain me in there. And it's a long story, but at the end of the day, I had somebody supposed to come get me at 8:30, but it was like going on 7. I'm trying to, hey man, come get me, because this ain't me.
Well,
you know what
one
I mean?
of the things
she was just like super drunk and didn't act.
I would ask you, how do you get to the conversations and all of that if you're trying to get beyond the body type is what what you're physically attracted to, how do you get past that to get to the conversation part? Is it like
Well,
meet them in different places?
Yeah, it's just meeting the person, you know, and just being open to, you know, the vibes that's right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
saying hello and saying hi, and then wherever that goes, then let's talk. You know what I
Right.
mean? Let's talk.
Right.
And then
As opposed to
and
you
then
cutting them off, because they don't fit a particular body type that you used to. So now
right,
you're just opening yourself to possibilities
right,
because they may be something and you don't know, and you're not just
right,
that's wise, you know. And I know for me, certainly
right.
it comes with
And
age. That came for me with age,
yeah,
like getting over the physical type,
and I think
right?
that's right,
Because I
right.
had, it was like,
And,
oh, I want them to look a certain way, you know.
okay, right, right. And then the one thing that one of the points that I was making is that at the end of the day, because I was gonna make that a relationship, you know what I mean, and, with the girl, but I had to tell her, look, I can't do this, you know what I mean. I had to tell her I can't do this, you know, and she didn't really understand it, but I had to tell her, like, if you see a red, if I behave in a way that was a red flag for you, then I expect you to respond to that. I said, you behaved in a way for me that was a red flag. And my yes is just like the guy behind you said, my yeses is my yes, my no's is my no's. So I'm telling you, I can't do this one. You know, I
I
can't do
think
this
that's
one
the
because
healthiest
I
thing in the
saw a red
world.
flag.
I
And
think it's the healthiest thing in the
yeah,
world. And what
And pay attention.
I
yeah,
encourage people to do, because this is one of the ways that we wind up in those kinds of situations, and that is we have sex too fast. And then the next thing you know, there's all these expectations associated with that. And now, even though you see the red flags, I'm going past them red flags. First, it's a whisper, right? Then it's a little flag waving. Then it's a hey, hey, hey. Now it's neon lights, and now it's a Mack truck running over you because you was ignoring all of that because
right,
you were paying attention to something else and not paying attention, or you were ignoring the red flags, right? We ignore those because particularly once we start having sex too soon. And also people wind up, oh, well, they're cute, he's cute, she's cute, whatever. And we wind up in these sexual situations, and it totally changes the focus. It clouds our vision to be able to see the red flags, right? We start looking like this, and we only see periodically. Like if I'm looking through, I can only see where my fingers are gone, right? But some of it I see and some of it I don't, because I'm paying attention to this over here, and that becomes the focus. And what is this
right,
person to me? How are they functioning? Actually becomes less important to me, and I miss it. And then I wake up and
right,
I'm not happy about the situation. So I think it's good that you paid attention
right,
early, and because it is, if a person is drunk all the time, that's a problem. Right? They're drunk enough that they can't pay
right,
attention to know that they're supposed to be looking out for you, right? You know what I mean? So there you
right,
go. You know what I mean? So that's good. And thank you for sharing that with me
right.
and with the group, because it does matter. Uh-huh.
Hey, Rufus, when you was in the pen and you was calling her, when you was in the pen, you was calling her, she was drunk. You didn't see the red flag then?
You gotta unmute because I muted your back again. Unmute, Rufus. There you go.
Oh no, I didn't. She wasn't. I didn't see the drinking. I didn't get the. Well, let me take that back. Her and I had a phone, so her and I was only texting each other. We wasn't really. We had a few conversations here and there, but it was all texting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
All
You
night.
didn't the signs. You didn't
We
get the
texted all
signs.
night.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Right.
My thing was I couldn't text that well, so I'm earbugged, you know.
We text all night, every day, all night. We never really talked. Which was cool with me. But and then plus with her, we grew up in the same neighborhood, so I knew her
Okay.
from back from 30 years ago, 34 years ago. But we like to answer your question, we maybe talked. When you say hours, we maybe talked 3 hours in 4 years.
Yeah,
Dang.
got you.
You know what I mean? But we text every,
Got the red flag.
Well,
but we
because
text every day.
he
Yeah.
couldn't detect drunk from the text.
Nah.
You know, he couldn't.
Right.
How you gonna know? You
Exactly.
know what I'm saying? The words are not slurring in the text message.
Exactly.
Plus, a person can edit
Exactly.
the text message to make it make sense. Go back and read it. Oh, that don't make sense, and go back and clean
Right.
that up or make it sound better or whatever. So, and
Right.
what's good about that, understanding that part is it's another thing of just investing the time in person and those kinds of things to know what it is. And one of the things I've said oftentimes is when people go to prison, their legend grows.
Yeah.
Right? Their legend grows. So people either want you to be exactly who you were or nothing like who you were. And so if you knew her in your neighborhood and everything, she's remembering that person, and so were you. Right? So you were remembering the sweet little thing from 30 years ago. All of the baggage that happened to her and to you in that 30 years, it wasn't that you didn't have all of that in context, right? And now you have context for that. Now you know some things about that person, and the wear and tear started to show. But it's very wise on your part, though, to understand that you can't.
That's true.
Yeah, you can't undo it, right? So like there are things that
Right.
happen to you that she can't undo, right?
I'm gone.
But let me say this. The one thing that like you said, there's a whole gap there, right? But the one thing that I believe in communicating about being adults, we can talk about where we at today and,
Right.
and take where we at today and move forward and move on. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So I couldn't see us, us being there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the red flags was waving at you. They were screaming at you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you couldn't see further. You know what I mean?
And I didn't want to waste my time. I didn't want to make. I didn't want to waste.
That's what I was getting ready to say. That's awesome because you weren't wasting your time or her time. You weren't wasting either of you guys' time, and that's important. Because look, you know how important time is, right? You don't have none to waste. You don't have none to give. None of that. So that's a blessing. And that you had the strength to do it, because again, sometimes people wind up also because of need, particularly when they come home from prison and they have a need for certain things, basic necessities, and that need will cause them to put up with a lot of stuff that doesn't work for them. And that is problematic. The need, rather than being with somebody that you want versus what you need, will cause you to make choices that are not in your best interest. They're just not in your best interest. So I want to give you a big high five for that. You know what I'm saying? Because you recognized it, and as soon as you recognized it, you let it go.
Cut it off.
You cut it off, and look, there's nothing that she needs is your problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
I testified to that. When I said I was gone, I was in the backseat of the police car already. So understand and use my experience as a life lesson that how easy it is to be off the road and get put in the backseat of a police car. How easy it is for somebody else to see it and call the police and you're caught up. It wasn't I or the young lady called it. It was a neighbor across the street, but she knew my character. The thing is, y'all be careful of the women that you choose, even the stereotype or the not stereotype. Vet it like you would if somebody hit the yard. Vet it like somebody new hit the yard. You don't just run up and say, that's my home. You're gonna check his paperwork. You're gonna check his pedigree. You're gonna check everything about him before you make that decision to break bread with him. So if you running that same character, run that same character with the woman that you meet. Vet her.
And the friends. You need to check they hood rap sheet too. They hood TRW, credit report. You need to check that because you don't know, even if they were friends 20, 30 years ago, you don't know what they're doing now. You don't know what kind of life, even if you haven't been in contact with them in the past couple of years, you don't know what they're doing, right? You need to understand what is a person into now? What are they currently involved in before you begin to exchange with them? Because how many people do each of you know that wound up in the pen because somebody asked them to take a ride with them? Just a simple ride, right? A simple ride led to years in the penitentiary. Okay, so it's that same kind of a thing that when we choose, that we need to be careful. It's all in the selection process. And who's in control of the selection process? For me. I'm in control of the selection process for me. Nobody else gets to choose for me, right? I got to choose for me what I'm selecting and where I choose to spend my time and how I choose to engage with the people around me. I'm responsible for that. And so it matters, okay? And I want to say, welcome, young lady.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see everyone. Sorry, I was running a little late.
And can you talk to the people about the selection process?
Yes, the selection process is all on you. It doesn't matter how long you knew somebody. It doesn't matter if you knew them since elementary school. It's been a long time since you've seen them and been around them. They have been through things just like you have been through some things. So you have to always remember that part first before you start entertaining people, just accepting all these people into your life, because just because you accept that person because you knew them, they have did some things probably to some other people that you don't know nothing about. Or they probably be going through some things you don't know nothing about. So you always have to be selective on who you let in your space.
And you know what, that brings up this for me to say this. This is a tool. You can look at it this way. Now that you're home, you have an opportunity. You actually have pretty much a clean slate to decide who's going to be in your movie, right? Who you get to have a whole new cast of characters. There are some family members, but I will tell you this. Family is not always just who's blood.
Right.
And they don't have a right either, just because they are blood, to bring drama, trauma, anger, disturb your peace just because they're related to you by blood. They do not have a right. And you have a divine right not to allow somebody to disturb your peace because they're family. And I've had to make that choice. It's not fun. It's not pretty. It can be very hurtful. But what I will say is that I am at peace, even though I've had to cut off folks that have been close to me. So yes, go ahead, sweetie.
I wanted to say also about as far as relationships, I was just talking to my co-director, and I said that because she was saying how well you did, and I tell you what she wants to happen now.
Okay.
So the relationships that you have when you come out, I told her none of us need to be in one. And I love when James says even a man shouldn't go home to his wife, which means a woman shouldn't go home to her husband, because you do come out a different person. And just because you haven't been touched, you want to be touched. And men, of course, want to come out and have sex, but you guys better be real careful, because they got some stuff out here now that you can't get rid of. It's like fentanyl and stuff. So, but you get to know somebody, get to know yourself first, get to know what you like, and then decide. Don't just choose anybody, because you end up with a baby you don't want. You end up with something you can't get rid of, or a crazy woman and stuff. So be very selective, but do it after you've been out for a while, until you know yourself.
And it really is helpful. And that is for both men and women. To, and you always say it, Ms. Cheryl, and that's a good thing, because you're teaching the women that you sharing that perspective with the women that you come in contact, and we need to share it with everybody, because the concept of having that intermediate state between that institution and being with your family full time really can help, because people coming out of incarceration have been there for a long time. There's a way, there's a rhythm, there's a flow. It's a steady drumbeat. Prison operates the same, right? But then when you come home, now you got to figure out what this flow is and how you want to flow in it.
Because they done been through some stuff too. They done been through some things in prison we don't know. I've never been to prison, so I won't know, but they have.
And we talked about that earlier, is the fact that when we talked about it with Rufus, right? His friend, he knew her before he went to prison. And I was saying there were things that she'd been through in the 30 years that he didn't know nothing about. And she doesn't know that some of the things he'd been through in the time he was gone that she didn't know anything about, right? And those things all impact us every day. They impact who we are. They impact what we like, what we don't like, what we want. One of the things I've learned in dealing with that came out in this group several times was the men that come home from prison don't want a woman that's telling them what to do, because the women that have been in their lives while they were incarcerated typically were COs, and they were always constantly telling them what to do. And that's come up, men have mentioned that in this group several times. So that's just one thing where it may not have been anything for a normal guy, that may not be an issue. But for somebody that's been through incarceration, particularly for a long period of time, it's an issue. And it's something that they don't want. Like I told you about the guy that said he told his woman, I don't want you to touch me. Right? Why? Because there was some trauma associated with that he picked up in prison, and he didn't want to hurt her. So there are lots of things that we have to understand and pay attention to. But the reality is all of it is in the selection process. I want to take it one other place to make sure we go here too. And that is even in your employment. If you know that you are a night owl, it does not make sense for you to select the job that you got to be at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's not going to fit who you are. If you're a morning person, it don't make sense for you to take the graveyard shift. Why? Because you're not going to be on your best. But again, all of these are your selection process and the choices that you make for the life that you want to live now. And because you have the opportunity to really, you could set it right now. You can determine what it's going to look like. And you have the right to do that. Yes, sir.
I'm about to give y'all this red warning. Red flag. When we was in prison and they told us about how to fill out an application, they're gonna ask you, have you been to prison last 7 years or 5 years? And you answer no, because you was convicted like me back in 1994. But the other part of it is this, because I just lost a job because of it. I just got off parole 2 years ago. When they ask you if you're on parole, you say no. But when they check and see that you just got off parole in the last 5 years, they can go back to the original date that you was arrested. And that's how they investigate you. They use the gateway of your parole, the day you got off parole, to investigate your criminal conviction. So all of that they was teaching us inside, I'm gonna tell you from a guy, I just lost my job January. I was working for Union Pacific Train. I was a yard dog. The initial company hired me. They was cool with it because they saw I was off parole. But the train company, what they did was they saw I was off parole, but I hadn't been off parole over 5 years, so they can investigate. And their investigation team went all the way back to 1994 and saw what I was convicted of, and they actually denied me employment.
Well, that's good information to have, because it's a nuance. It's a little bit of twist on what people do and how they do that. And so what it is right now, I want to start giving you guys a chance to check out Patrick. I'm going to start with you, sweetie.
We've talked about this off and on for 6 months. If you're doing something that doesn't work, don't keep on doing it. That's the definition of insanity. And also, okay, we know what we like, but what we like isn't necessarily what's good with us. So don't do that either.
You said a mouthful right there, right? Because I know what I like. I know I could tell you, but it didn't necessarily like me back.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
so,
And
you
part of
know,
the problem was, no, actually, it did like me back. And then I realized, well, no, I don't really like that. I'm like you, Roberta. It's like, well, I think I like this. And it's like, no, I don't really like that after all.
we talked about this tonight. We took all these groups in prison because we had to qualify for parole. But what we don't always think about is by taking all these groups and being exposed to things, we changed. People around us, even in prison, don't realize we have changed. Yes, we're in prison and we protect ourselves. And then we come out, our family doesn't realize we're not the same person we were when we went in. We're a new person. So like you said, we come out with a clean slate. Well, it's not a clean slate. It's a different slate. We're
Yeah.
different. We are different.
Yes.
And tell people, I don't do this anymore because I'm a new person. That's a better way of saying it. I'm a new, improved person. So this is what I want to do now. And this is what I'm going to do with my friends and new people. I'm fortunate. I get to go to college and I get to be in LA with all kinds of people. Hang out with the people that compliment you and hang out with the people that are different.
Right.
If they're different, you learn. If they compliment you, you're getting support on the new you.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Thank you. This is why I love checkout, because we get some of the most profound things that come out during checkout. I love that. Otis, you want to check out for me?
Yeah.
Can you unmute, Otis?
Start talking, Otis. Don't play like you shy now.
There you go. You're
There you
unmuted
go.
now.
How we doing, Noreen?
All right.
Watch that big guy back there. He's kind of them. I get him in trouble. Hey, I'm doing okay. I'm waiting on that move to happen so we can get all this stuff done and be on our way so I can start getting, maybe I'm trying to find a nighttime job because I can't do anything in the day. Other than that, I'm doing great and blessed.
Wonderful.
I can't ask for a better life.
All right. Thank you, darling. Mr. Gilbert, can you unmute?
You ready?
Yeah. So any comments, anything you want to take away from tonight?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say that, I agree with what's mostly been said, but after doing like 24, 25 years in prison and having that change, I understand today what I'm motivated by is my freedom. And at this point in my life, I know what's going to put me back. And that means the relationships that I had. So today I have a simple concept. It's like attracts like. And I understand that today, what I project out to the world is what I'm attracting. And if it doesn't suit my needs or my freedom, and if it's a risk, I have to cut it.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no question about it. And that includes family.
Yes, it does.
I come from a background where every family member's been to prison, including my mother and father.
Mhm.
Thank God that they had a change in their life 25 years ago, but the rest of my family hasn't. So I know today that if I'm with them, my freedom and everything that I worked for is at a risk.
Yeah, it's dancing on that line, ain't it?
Yeah, and as hard as it is,
just by being around them and in their circle and in their environment. Yeah.
right. And as hard as it is, as much as I love them, I had to tell them that I can't do this. I can't spend time, or we can't hang out like we used to, but it's for a reason. And, it's difficult, but I'm not going back. And I know what's going to put me there. And it's the same thing with girls. The same thing with intimate partners too. So, I mean, and it's a choice. And if you're going to be in those relationships that are bad for you, it's a choice. And today I'm not making that choice.
It's a choice. It is a choice. And I really thank you for your input. I know a guy, and he was telling me how that the girl that he sees, that sometimes she'll get drunk and they're out in public, and sometimes he's like, he's concerned that she's gonna pop off her mouth at somebody and get them involved in something. And he's like, and I don't want to go back to prison, and he's just, he hasn't been in prison in decades. So he's like, I just can't go back to that, So I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you know that.
and that you know that it's right for you not to do what, hang out with your family when you know there's a possibility that due to the life that they're leading, that it can put you in jeopardy. So, and I'm glad you have the strength, and I'll keep you in my prayers for that continued strength, because you love them, right? They're your family, right? You don't lose the love, but you do know that it's not possible for you to maintain where you are like that. So that's a powerful thing, and it takes a lot of strength. And I just want to encourage you, hang in there. Hang in
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah, thank you. And Kit, can you unmute? Are you there, Mr. Kittredge? Okay, you did it, then you did it again. You muted it back. Go
Okay.
ahead. There you go.
Okay. I enjoyed the conversation today because it was about relationship. And that's what I came here about, to learn about relationships. And I tell you this much. I had two choices when I came home: my first wife or my ex or my first baby mama. And I'm so glad I chose my baby mama over my ex-wife.
Okay.
Because I have been with her and I'm truly happy with her.
Good. Well, that's a blessing.
3 years out and I'm still doing it.
Good. That's wonderful. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the conversation tonight. Glad you was with us. And I look forward to hearing you next week. Mr. Bradley. You still there?
Yeah, still here. Yeah, fine.
You know, for some reason you're going in and out.
Okay. What about now?
Not so good.
Over here?
Try it again.
What about now?
Okay, I think if you get close to the microphone and stay stationary, if you put the microphone close to your mouth, I think it's dangling. So maybe if you put it close to your mouth and just.
What about now?
Yep, it's working.
Working?
Yep.
Still working?
It sure did.
Okay. First, what I found attractive about a female is the outer beauty first. And then from the outer beauty to the inside beauty. I like a strong woman who knows what she wants in life, who is not afraid to share her mind, her thought, and the things that she like and dislike, being open with me. Then I want to know this person goals and all these type of things. The same way I want from her, the same thing I give to them. Being open and honest, let them know what I'm looking for in life, and see do our goals match up. If it halfway matched up, okay, cool. I can help her with her goals. She can help me with my goal. This is what I look for in a woman. Friendship first of all. Then at the last thing, it's got to be intimacy. If our intimacy do not match up, then that's a no-go for me, because that's gonna make me stray outside the relationship because of certain things I might want and certain things she might want I'm not with. So therefore, it's like I'm gonna be open and honest what I'm looking for. So we won't be playing no game, we won't be playing no mind game. If we start arguing in an aggressive way, that's a wrap for me, because I don't need someone, I'm quite sure the woman don't need someone who's gonna be arguing, because to me, that's abuse. And for a relationship, for me to be strong, we got to connect, we got to communicate, we got to be able to share. When someone on our mind, we got to talk, not argue, and that's what I look for. That would attract me to a woman and stuff like that. But a strong woman.
And over the course of your time and over the course of your life, has it been mostly successful relationships or not? Because the concept go ahead, sweetie.
All my relationships have been over, say, 6 years, from 3 to 6 years. All my relationships I have been with.
You had long term.
Right before I got out of prison, all these females I knew 30 years ago, over 30 years, they told me, they said, no, you don't want to get out and try to just build a relationship with no one woman. You got to get out. These are the females telling me this, older female, educated female. So you got to go out there and experience it after 2 or 3 years. Then you decide if you want to settle down with this particular female. And that's who I listen to. I don't listen to dudes no more. I listen to females female friends because I feel females give the best advice. They use their minds more than men. They are our teachers and stuff. So when it comes to females, that's what I listen to. I respect females because that's where I came from, a female. That's who raised me, was a female, a strong female. And I look for strong female that's not afraid to share they mind, they thought, and their opinion, how they feel about things. That what attracts me to, females.
Wonderful, and I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. So let's see, in the room, any last comments from you, Miss?
Oh, yes. So someone had mentioned the, and it's the perspective of the family when you return, that they think you the same old person. And that is the thing. People really do the work in prison, and you come out and your family's the same, but you change and they don't understand you and stuff. So keep that.
Yeah, got you. James, any final comments from you?
Just keep striving, brothers, and understand that we lean on each other, and we lean on each other for strength, for peace, and for humility. And also understand that take your time, breathe, take your time, take your shoes off, walk at the park in the grass. You home, you free, enjoy it. Don't be almost my mistake last night. Vet them, and vet them good.
Awesome, thank you. Any comments, final comments from you, my dear?
No, it was a good topic. Good night.
Thank you, wonderful.
The topic was good. Once again, I enjoyed everybody. Thank you.
Oh, you want to say something else?
Yes, I would also like to say that whoever that was that said you go for the looks first, why? Why don't you just get to know somebody? That's the whole problem with relationships, is that we do this physical attraction stuff, and then after the physical fades out, then you guys don't even know the girl don't know the guy, and you guys don't get along.
That's for anybody. You gotta be attractive before you can do anything. If you're not attracted to that person, you ain't gonna want to know that person.
Why not? Why if you didn't want to befriend somebody and then you get to, you know how many people been friends for years and then discover that they really love each other because they've been friends. It was no expectations from either one of them. But the thing is, you see a girl with a big behind and you be like, hey.
See, that's where you're wrong at. Because I didn't say she gotta have body. I say it could be her eyes, it could be her hair. That could attract me.
Now let me but let me tell you this. But you know, Alana, I'm glad you said that, because what I learned is what attracts a man is not necessarily what women think it is all the time. They're like, it's interesting that you, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because we look at other women and we see certain things that we think make them attractive. But again, for a man, they look at different things. I'm gonna give you an example, a ready example in the room. When this one here, the one he was really stuck on before he went to prison, and we was like, is that her?
Yeah.
We was clowning. We was like, I know that ain't her. That she had my brother toe up like that. Yes, that was her.
Yeah.
It looked nothing like we expected. So just, little Missy, that what you think ain't what it is. And yes, there has to be something. Maybe it could be that you're in a particular place and you get to observe her behavior or whatever. That gives you that physical attraction.
The way she carry herself.
It may very well be. So
how she carry herself.
I got you.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful that we had this conversation and we could clear that one little thing up right there. And this has been Free to Heal. I thank you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Okay.
YouTube, Twitter.
See y'all. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Don't forget to find us. Bye.